Hi there, and welcome to the Pod, the Northwest's newest all-purpose recording studio for content creators. If you've got something to say and need a place to say it, search for podpod.uk. In all the usual social channels, give us a like and a follow, and get in touch to reserve your time to create. Recently, Pod had the pleasure of hosting Mick Turner, strength and conditioning coach and owner of Positive Performance, the business he launched 4 years ago focusing on young athlete development. His guest was his one-time pupil, his good friend, and the richly talented, highly decorated rugby league player and captain of the Wigan Warriors, Liam Farrell. We chatted about their time together at Wigan, Liam's attitude to training, the view on good habits for youngsters with the ambition to develop, and the benefits of incorporating strength and conditioning into any training program. Liam also recalls a few of his standout moments from sessions and camps set up by Mick. So welcome, lads, to the podcast. It's great to have you both here, Mick and Liam. So I'll crack straight on and ask you some questions about your relationship, your experiences of each other, and where it all began is probably a good place to start. So what I'm looking for from you both is if you can tell me a little bit about what you remember about when and where you first met.
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
You'll have to excuse me with the years and stuff, but I'm guessing 2008.
So 15 years ago is when you first roughly met.
God, yeah.
I think your debut was in 2010, was it?
Yeah.
So 2 years before that, mate.
Yeah, well, I remember Faz making his debut in 2010, so I was just looking back because I know Brian Noble was the head coach then, and Sean Wayne was the academy, it was like the reserves then, I think. So I was brought in as a volunteer, believe it or not. So what was your role then, mate? Well, they didn't have anyone running the S&C for the juniors then. All it was the academy, and I think it was the under-21s or under-23s. I can't remember. It's a slightly different formula now. So I remember they didn't have anyone to run those roles, so it was an evening. So it was a few evenings. I was actually a postman at the time, so I was doing my post round. Obviously, I was trained to be an S&C coach, so I got very, very lucky. Got the role back in that time. Then 2008, I think it was. And
so, what do you remember about Liam at that time, Mick?
So there was a lot of them then. So obviously, I remember going into the gym that first time, and all these lads I didn't know anything about. Force was the head, I think the head of S&C then, so he took me down. Yeah, I met Wayne, who I remember as a player then. But I remember, early days, Liam was the lads were great, so rugby lads tend to be, have a good work ethic anyway, and Liam from very early, he was earmarked to be coming through the system anyway, and I think it was only a matter of time before he was going to get his opportunity to go up with the first team as a young professional then. So how old would you have been there, Faz?
2008, 17?
Yeah, so 17, 18, from that early age, great work ethic, enjoyed training, loved being in the gym, was one of them characters then, you could pretty much give him anything and he'd eat it up, so, and he hasn't changed much, so, great work ethic, really good aerobic capacity, so when we started doing the testing, it was clear to see he had his physicality was extremely high. Any fitness testing, he was up at the top, in pretty much everything.
So would you say he was a competitive member of the squad at that time?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Wanting to win at everything. I still believe you're top of the test now, even at 34. Is it 33? 33. Give an extra year. But yeah, so from an S&C point of view, so looking for those sort of physicality side, we're looking at sort of strength, the aerobic fitness, the mobility, the speed, the change of direction, the agility, all those that go to making a good rugby player. So yeah, Faz was high, you know, was always, you know, the top or second or third in most of those tests. Yeah.
And angry if he was second or third and wanted to get top again, probably. Liam, from your point of view, then at that time, we're talking, you know, a little while ago. Your ambition would have been driving you as a 17-year-old, and obviously you played rugby league for a while before that. So you'll have had coaches, and then you'll have come into a situation at Wigan where perhaps Mick was new to you at that time. What was your first impression of Mick?
Yeah, you sort of bringing a lot of memories back now. Like you said, it's a long time ago, but obviously my first impression as a topper is straight down the line. No whistles, no bells, anything like that. You get what you see. And then obviously you start to realise his background of being in the Marines and having that kind of background about him. And I think he hit it off with the lads pretty much straight away. And there was no messing about from the lads. He let the lads have the fun when they needed to, but when it was time to train, it was switched on, do what you need to do. And he always ran the sessions really well. And some of the sessions were really intense.
I can imagine. So just give me a typical session, Mick, that you would have done with the lads then when Liam was in those early days.
I think it's probably quite important. When I came into the Warriors, then I had no strength and conditioning background, so I only started to learn as a strength and conditioning. So when I walked in and I seen these lads, and you all used to, if you remember that East Stand gym, they all used to sit in they had like a little kitchenette, they all used to sit in there, and I had to walk in there and try and motivate them to come. Not that they needed it, but it was quite intimidating at the time.
You're herding cats, aren't you? You've got a lot of young lads with a lot of ambition and competition in them, and you're having to stay in control of that.
And I was like the new guy, so I was like, well, how am I going to get these lads on side? So I suppose I did relate back to the Marines. You know, we prided ourselves on our work ethic, you know, and that's what I probably tried to instill into these lads, you know, because rugby league is arguably one of the toughest games there is, you know. So the lads, the tough lads anyway, but we just wanted to instill that work ethic into them, you know, and pretty soon they did buy into it, I think.
So who, in your opinion, Liam, at that time were the guys that he had the most trouble with, and where do you put yourself in that mix?
Well, thinking back, trying to put 16, 17, 18-year-old lads and say to them, look, come and do your prehab, come and get yourselves ready for a gym session, they're not interested. And I'd have been one of them lads at the time. So Topper, coming from his Marines background, he's thinking, what are these lads doing? I need to get them up and doing something. So I imagine it could have been quite frustrating for him at the time and coming in as a volunteer, but I think he got his way in the end, and we bought into his ethos of how to work and train hard, prepare hard, and I think he had a really positive impact on the lads.
That's great.
I think from me it's like, because I didn't have that underlying strength and conditioning background to fall back on, it was a case of, look, I know how to get a group, or try and get a group of lads fit and motivated and enjoy it as well. And that East End gym was great, wasn't it? Because we had...
well, if you think, that gym was the first team gym as well.
That's right, it was then, back in them days, yeah. No, in fact, they had oral then.
15 years ago, 20 years ago, that would have been a state-of-the-art gym for Super League teams and stuff. Obviously, things have developed now, but at the time, it was a great setup. And we was lucky as academy lads that we could use it at the same time.
It was, I guess, if you look at the gym you've got now, I guess if people had walked in it then, it seemed quite primitive. But the good thing I liked about it had space. So we had a running track in there, which was good, and we had the ropes, didn't we?
Yeah.
So obviously, coming from a Marines background, we used to do a lot of rope climbing. So, you know.
So you were starting to introduce some of the things that you'll have been experiencing as a Marine into the training that the lads at the club were going through with you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was learning on the move. So I was like, in the evenings, I was learning about strength and conditioning myself. and then trying to implement a session which I thought these lads are going to enjoy, and because they did love working hard, you know, because you had Faz in there, you had Chris Tucson, you had Sam Tonkins, you had some real good characters, and I think in the end they did start to enjoy it. We had tyres in there and stuff, you know, so I think I put the strength and conditioning sort of sports science to one side, and we just tried to instill a bit of fun and a bit of work ethic. So yeah, the rope climbing, it's great upper body strength.
But when I think back about it, there's lads just want to do bench press, they want to do curls, and then toppers coming in, right, we need to do some speed mechanics, we need to start climbing ropes, and lads are looking thinking, what's this guy on about? And anyway, I think looking back, by the end of it, there was lads climbing ropes with 20 Ks on the back.
Yeah.
It's some effort that, it made a big difference, and just a different style of training. Like I said, he might not know much about S&C at the time, but he got the lads buy-in, which is a big thing, I think, anyway. Yeah,
especially when you start to see results in your own performance as well, I guess. That's a big thing, isn't it? Funnily enough, I was speaking to Chris Tucson and your brother Connor, and what they were saying to me was that given the time again, they would love to have what Mick's now offering to young athletes infused into the training at a much earlier point. You know, that strength and conditioning, that cardio. They say now they do a lot of running, they do a lot of cardio, and it's made them different athletes now, even after retirement. Do you agree with that?
It's sort of easy for me to sit here and say it now because it's been and gone.
Yeah.
But I was one of them lads who I wanted to lift heavy in the gym, I wanted to run. But if you can add all them other little factors in, your mobility, your mechanics, your speed mechanics, how you lift, they're all subtle little things what will help you so much through a 15, 20-year career.
Yeah.
It's something I've probably only started to pick up over the last 5 or 6 years, and even now I still feel the benefit of it.
That's great. So let's talk about. So obviously you've got to a point where you're starting to bring that strength and conditioning in. You're looking at that in the evenings, aren't you? And you're looking at that and how that gets built into the program. You were there how long, Mick? Tell me about that, the time at Warriors, and then we could talk about like memorable moments that you both remember together from a success point of view within the club.
Yeah, so I think it was 2008 when I came in, and I did. So started off with the academy in the evenings as a postman, in the daytime or in the morning, and then I think it was quite quick, maybe within less than 12 months that I got offered to assist with the first team. So I became a full-time member of staff then, I think in around 2009. So I was helping Mike Forshaw, as it was in the evening, in the daytime with the first team, and I was dropping down to the academy and the under 23s or whatever it was then in the evening.
The good thing about that is that you're seeing young athletes actually transition into first team then.
Yeah, and that's what I loved. It was great to see people like Faz, and you know there was a lot of them youngsters coming through, and that's I think where I guess found my niche, where I, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed working with the first team, but when you see these young athletes at 16, 17, 18, they've got, if you can instill some good habits into them at that age, you can see some massive changes in them, you know what I mean? Going into first team, educate them early was always my thing, and then you watch them flourish when they get into the first team.
So it's good habits then, isn't it, at a young age that you're instilling as well as...
Yeah, 100%. Whereas sometimes you go to the first team and you might have a senior professional there who's you know, his late 20s, 30s, who, I'm not saying they don't want to learn, but sometimes with that type of athlete, you're just sort of, it's about small margins with them, I guess, you know. Don't get me wrong, you can change things with them, but I think if you can get the athletes at an early age, that's what I say. Wigan, we prided ourselves on the lads coming through the system, so that, you know, it was like a pathway for them, you know, and obviously Faz is a perfect example of that. Who's come through the system, and he's
we effectively, we've seen for the last 15 years the fruits of both of your labour on the pitch in terms of success. So tell me about that. Tell me about the memories that you may have of times where you've spent time together. I know that, Mick, you've said to me before about warm weather training in Florida. I don't know whether Liam was with you at that session.
Well, I guess for me and Faz, because I got brought up into the first team in 2009. I think Faz made his debut in 2010, so I stayed at the club till 2015, and I moved on and then came back in 2019. So yeah, I think the warm weather camps, they were after Madge had gone, and I think Sean Wayne was the head coach then, so that would be 2012, 2013, 2014. We did about 3 pre-seasons, didn't we, in Florida?
12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Possibly 15 as well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I think I'd left and they did another one. I was gutted. I remember Wayne messaging me saying they were in Miami
But take me back to the track and field athletics track that you were at.
See
whether Liam remembers.
Oh, Fazal, I'm sure he'll remember that.
Tyson Gale, was it?
Yeah. So the area was Clermont, I think, in Florida, and that was our training base. So the training base was a running track, and then we had access to a rugby field and access to a gym inside. And it was geared around triathletes, I think, if I remember. And
this speaks to your point,
track
Liam,
athletes.
about speed dynamics, doesn't it? The stuff that Mick was getting you involved in on that trip.
So I've been an S&C coach then, I guess. I was coming up to probably 4 years, and Mark had come on Bitters, who obviously was good for me because he'd give me a lot of free rein with the S&C and being with the lads in the gym and basically controlling the sessions and writing the sessions. So I started to get into a lot of speed work then, because I thought it was an area we weren't probably doing enough of. And it was great because, we got to see some of the world's best sprinters, how they warmed up, so trying to get these lot to try and stretch and do mobility. And you're looking at some of the best athletes in the world stretching for like an hour before they even did anything. So, like I said, I think I said it in a previous podcast where you had 2 groups warming up. So there was about 20 of the best US sprinters in the world, and we were Wigan Warriors were next to them doing our thing. You know what I mean? And I was, yeah.
I think I remember you saying about striding over to open your hips up or over a set of obstacles, and the lads were like, "What's all this about?" And then they saw Justin Gatlin and Tyson Gale doing exactly this, didn't they? And thought, all right, well, if it's good enough for them.
Well, I looked at mobility in general, and I thought as rugby athletes, and we probably, it was an area that we didn't maybe do enough of.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, let's have a look what the sprinters do, and try and cherry pick a couple of little things, because you can't train purely how they do it, because these are rugby lads. They've got so many facets that go into the physical development and the game as a whole. Obviously sprinters have just got to worry about running a straight line. These lads have got to worry about 2 or 3 defenders and collisions, so they don't run in a straight line purely, you know what I mean? So agility is a big one for us and change of direction. So, but the hip mobility, I looked at a lot what they were doing, the stretching, the striding over hurdles and just being a little bit more mobile and dynamic. Them
guys would only spend 2 or 3 minutes actually sprinting. The whole probably session was spent on mobility and warming up.
Yes.
And it was crazy to watch them, really.
But what it gives them is that explosivity, isn't it? It's that explosion off the blocks. And I guess to have some of that as part of your training regime has got to mean that it's bearing fruit on the pitch when, you've got to get out of trouble or accelerate or, hit someone hard. I guess my question to you, Liam, with everything that you've sort of ever experienced working with Mick, has it instilled habits in you in terms of your training? Because you're still going now This is going to be the 14th season, is it, since your debut?
It's something like
wow.
that. Yeah.
You know, have you taken on and continued to do some of the stuff that was instilled in you?
When I think Top used to always say, yeah, you're good with your strength, you're good with your fitness, probably work on your mobility a bit more. At the time, I probably thought, nah, I don't really need to, I'm all right. And he'd do it year on year on year. He still does it to me now, even when I bump into him every now and again. You're stretching your hips, you're getting a mobility in your hips. So definitely, them small little habits I have definitely picked up over the years. Yeah. And Top has had a big influence on that, I reckon.
That's good.
Remember when you, this was when you were at Oral, so you're probably in about 24, 25 then. We were trying to get front squats and cleans because you just didn't have the...
Yeah,
and,
I'm still struggling with that one. I think I've given up on that one a little bit now.
But Faz was one of them. I think most young athletes, they're a little bit... He's right what he's saying. They
can't tell me anything.
Not so much that, is they want to lift heavy, they want to be... And it's even gone worse now with Instagram. They see so much and they want to do it, you know.
So what would your advice be to a young athlete now that's coming onto your programme in order to be the best that they can be in their ambition to become an elite athlete? What would your advice be to them, Mick?
I think a simple word called balance. So balance in your lifestyle. And so if you take a rugby player, okay, certain positions might need slightly different things, or you know, so Faz as a back rower prides himself on his aerobic fitness. He's also very strong. He's got good speed. He's got a good evasive quality, so agility. So it's all those facets, you know. So yes, you might be strong in the gym, but what's your mobility like? What's your speed like? What's your aerobic fitness like? You know, so it's work on your strengths, find out what your strengths are, but also work on your weaknesses as well. So you're not, you know, and I think Faz is a great advocate of that. He's got great balance throughout his training. You know, when I came back the second time, so that would have been a couple of years ago, you know, he was always the first in the gym. And, you know, didn't have to tell him anything. You'd already had your stretching program, haven't you, on your phone, and he was doing it, so he was following something. And that's a good thing about social. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bagging social media, by the way. I think Instagram does some fantastic stuff on it. And if you find something that works for you, I always have a look at it and go, okay, that's great, you know. And he was doing all the right stuff. Some stuff on Instagram can obviously steer you away, and you know, so.
But that balance, as long as you're putting everything in across the board in terms of the mix of things that you offer, then you're going to end up with all-round performance, is what you're effectively saying.
Yeah, a rounded athlete is what we're looking for, really. Yeah,
that's great. You know, the club that you both worked at, represents still, has had some incredible successes over its time, and specifically during the era that you were both involved. Take me back to anything that sticks out in your mind as being I can see Liam smiling here. He's got something. So take me back to a point in time that you remember that you were both involved in.
I'm not going to embarrass you, no.
Well, I'll let Faz answer first then.
When I thought about it, there's a couple of things that stand out to me, and they're not actually games. So when Michael Maguire took over in 2010, he was known for having his lads extremely fit, strong, wanting them to train hard. And one of the main runs we used to do was using Hay Hall. It was a 3 mile runs in Hay Hall. Anyone who knows Hay Hall, we're starting down not far from the plantation gates.
I'm already throwing up.
Yeah, we're going all the way up to the house, round, back down. It's 3 miles. And there's a quite fit group of us who was out in the front. We'd done the hardest bit. We got up to the top of the hill. We're coming up to the house. We come round the house and we're coming on past the kids' park and round, and we're all blowing, really blowing. And all of a sudden, Topper jumps out of a bush. Come on, lads, keep up with Lee. And we're all thinking, do one Topper. He's fresh as the daisy, and we can't stand up straight. And then we're trying to catch him up, and he's trying to eat. But the thing is, there's a motive behind it. He's trying to push us on and get on as quick as we can.
Well, if I think rightly, that's all downhill from that section. Top.
It is all downhill.
I'd done that. They didn't see that.
He stood in a bush waiting for us at the top.
Got to lift up there. Oh, that's great. That's great. So what season would have that been? Can you remember?
That was the year. That was the pre-season to 2010. Yeah. So when Michael Maguire came in, it was pretty brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he was into the military. He did the military pre-season.
Yeah. So that was perfectly
with the long runs. Yeah. So they had. I think they still do them now. You know. So they do. Hay Hall. Well, you'll know fast.
I didn't do them this year, but we still do them now.
Yeah.
Rivington.
So they're not necessarily specific to the game, but in terms of getting your aerobic capacity up and a bit of a mental challenge as well, to be honest with some of the lads, because it can break you that. And coaches are looking for if lads are gonna have a dig, or are they gonna break and think, I'll pull a quick here and.
So where do you rank still, Liam? Just out of interest on that run, are you up there at the front still?
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I'll try. I've never been someone who's naturally fit, naturally strong. I've had to try, and it's something I've never minded doing.
Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. That actually led me on to the second story. So he was obviously big into his military as well, Michael Maguire, and I'm guessing you had some input with the Arbroath camp.
Yeah, that was my contact.
So honestly,
I knew the RSM.
So this is Arbroath.
I've had a 16, 17 year career now, and I've had some tough pre-seasons. The 3 days we spent in Arbroath is the hardest 3 days I've ever done by far. And all the lads who was involved in it will say the exact same thing.
Was that obstacle stuff, if I remember rightly?
It's pure Marines. It was
just everything.
Yeah, and it weren't necessarily the floggings we got every day where we'd be flogged. They'd take us on long runs and carrying logs and things over your heads, but it was get back, you'd be dripping wet through, you'd be soaking full of mud. Right, lads, you've got 2 minutes to get a shower. You go in, 30 lads try and get a shower in 10 showers, and then get all your dry kit on, come outside, line up, everyone lines up. Right, lads, get back inside, put all your cold gear back on. It was that kind of stuff, and being at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's just you're waiting to see if lads crack.
Tough stuff.
It was just, but yeah, it's stuff they're not used to. You know, the physical side they can handle, like you said, but it's some of them little things they throw at you, the psychological stuff, which is like, I remember there was a few of the lads were not happy. But yeah.
About yourself, mate, what do you remember?
Well, that camp does, because I remember Madge asking me, he said, you know, can you sort anything out? We actually went up, me, Bitters and Madge got the train up to Arbroath, because it just so happened at the time that 4-5 Commando in Arbroath were getting ready to go to Afghanistan. So it was funny because a lad, when I was serving, was the RSM of the camp, which is, you know, you're unsure, that's the main man of the camp, you know, so the regimental sergeant major. So I rang him up out of the blue, and I wasn't expecting anything. And he said, "Yeah, I'll accommodate you. Bring him up. It'll be good for morale for the." But yeah, so I mean that was a standout one. There's loads of standout ones. I mean, the times in Florida were great. You know, they were good times. Warm weather training. You know, we got to go to Miami. You know, we got to train with some of the finest American sprinters. The weather was great. We had some good fun as well on the time, some nights out.
You take them for granted a little bit now.
Yeah.
At the time, I took them for granted a little bit.
But looking back,
there was such a great time.
Yeah.
30 lads and staff as well, all going to Florida. You get big villas to yourselves, and then you train in tents throughout the day, and everyone gets together at night, and you go and eat out together.
It was really good.
I suppose there's a stark contrast between that and Arbroath, isn't there? And when you think back to that, I think you'd probably, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you probably got the same fond memories of Arbroath, even though at the time you probably didn't thank him for it because of the result that it gave you. You know, it's hindsight, isn't it? It's looking back. So I'm assuming that one, whether training in Florida actually and Arbroath, you probably have the same equal fondness, but for different reasons.
Of course you do. Sometimes it's not about the contact you get done, it's the connections you make with each other as well.
Yeah.
And whether you're in Florida enjoying the sun, or like you said in Arbroath and doing the tough stuff, you still build them connections, and that is probably half the battle when it comes to rugby league in general anyway.
Yeah, when I still bump into some of the players, they still bring up some memories of Arbroath. And
I must ask, because his testimonial balls there, was Mickey Mack at that Arbroath session?
Yeah, he would have.
He'd have loved it, wouldn't
he? Yeah, he'd have loved it. But he's just a silent assassin. You could put him through anything and he wouldn't blink. He wouldn't say a word. Yeah. He'd just get it done. That was the kind of bloke he is, and he's still like that now. If you ever bumped into him now, he's nicest bloke ever off the field, and he'll train hard. On the field, he's like a
different thing.
Yeah, he's like a Rottweiler.
It's like I say, a lot of what these have got, Faz, Mickey Mack, Sam Tompkins, and continue with all those great players that we're going to produce, they're all competitors, you know, and you put them in that competitive environment. So whether it was climbing ropes, flipping tyres in the marine camp, hay haul runs, they all want to beat each other.
Yeah.
And I think.
Do you find that's the case now, Mick, with you young athletes? You know, is there a lot of? Can you see the competitors? Can you see the talent in your groups?
Yeah, well, just to give you a quick example, I've done a session just before tonight. So, again, the session's an hour long. We do the stuff they don't like first, the mobility, and I educate them why. Then we move on to some, maybe some stability stuff. Some like body weight exercises again. The session builds an intensity. Then we start gradually adding in the stuff they like. So maybe some resisted sprints. We get the sleds out. We use the bands. They're still not going against each other. And then the last 15 minutes, we put whatever we've done in the session. So whatever we've taught. So if it's just linear sprinting or change of direction, we'll put that into some competitive sprints at the end. So then you get to see the lads who they want to beat each other. So whether they're sprinting against each other, so in a pair, or they're sprinting in a four or group, they all want to win, and they'll cheat slightly to win. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I mean, and I think that's rugby. Probably athletes. I've spent a lot of time around rugby.
It's the competitive nature in it.
Of course, they want to win, don't you?
You think about lads growing up, they're playing amateur sport, and you're playing Wigan St Pat's against Blackbrook. It's a local rival. They want to win. They want to beat each other. They want to win things, and I think that just follows them up through the academy ranks. It definitely did with me. It definitely did with all them other players you just mentioned. You're vying for one spot in a team, and you've got lads coming from 6-7 different clubs. Yeah. So the competitive nature's there, and you still see it now with lads coming into the first team. Some of these lads who are coming in now, they're really competitive, and you can understand why.
Absolutely,
they want to play for Wigan.
Absolutely. I've got a question for you, Liam, with regard to these young people that Mick trains now, I guess. Given the fact that knowledge and intelligence around fitness and training is as it is now, and given that, you know, at the time that you were coming through as a youngster, things were perhaps only just being developed in that sense. What advice have you got for youngsters who are coming onto a course like this?
When you said then about doing the stuff the lads don't want to do, the mobility, when I think about it, some of the best athletes are the most mobile athletes, in my opinion anyway. And like you said, things are a lot different now. They understand. I think lads from a young age understand what they need to have in their capacity to be a rugby league player, and the more they can buy into all them small little assets they can have about the game, it'll definitely make them a better player or a better athlete in general, I think.
That's great. Brilliant. So we'll just do a bit of a quick fire thing now. All the hard work's done, basically. I think we've got some really good stuff there that'll bounce off each other and give you the message that you're after. So that's key. Thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it. But we've got a couple of little easy little this or that questions for you, quick fire. You can answer in turn or you can answer together. It's up to you, but we'll see whether you differ on the answers that you give. There's only 5 or 6 of them, but given a cheap meal, I know Sean O'Loughlin a lot, and I see him a lot at the top of Gidlow Lane at the fish and chip shop on a Thursday night or whatever. So given a cheap meal, is it fish and chips or is it Chinese?
Fish and chips.
I had chippy the other night, so it's got to be chippy for me, yeah. Chippy tea.
Absolutely, so did I Thursday. Training preference, weights or cardio? If you had to choose.
I can't run anymore, so I'm not saying cardio's out. Tough one for me, that.
You love your fouls though, don't you?
I'll go cardio. I'm mountain walking now, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm cardio. I reckon.
If you could only do one or the other.
Cardio.
Yeah.
First, I wanna have a good cracker marathon when I finish. So definitely.
Good stuff. Okay, could get you into trouble here. Night out choices with the missus or the lads?
Missus.
I thought as much. Family man, absolutely.
I'll have to go lads then, won't I?
Okay, favourite actor? You've only got 2, De Niro or Pacino?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I like them both.
They've both been in one movie together as well. Well, 2 movies, but they were both in Heat, and I think I preferred one over the other.
That's one of my favourites, Heat as well. It's a great film.
I'll go De Niro.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. Yeah.
See, I differ there. Pacino for me, Scarface all day. I loved it. Yeah. Okay, male musician. Is it Ashcroft or Gallagher?
Oh.
Easy one for me.
Gallagher.
Yeah. I've got a history,
Liam's
so it's got to be Ashcroft.
Okay. And then finally, who was the better captain? Lockers or Farrell? And I don't mean Liam.
I can only pick one. Just because I played with him so long. Great captain, great leader. I admired him so much. Lockers, yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, I've got to say
and you
Lockers,
might bump into him sooner than
yeah, that's a good point. That.
Yeah, got to be Lockers, yeah.
Good on you. And that's it. It's been great to have you both. Great to hear you both bounce off each other in terms of your memories and so on. So thank you very much, Liam, and thanks, Mick, for joining us.
Thanks for
no problem.
organising it. Appreciate it.